Buzz Live. Hate less, read comics. It's Blake's Buzz Live.
Buzz, buzz, babies.
Hey, buzz, babies! Happy Wednesday! Happy new comic book day! I am excited as always, but tonight I'm a little bit more buzzed. Not like I don't drink, but like whatever. I'm excited to talk to tonight's guest because I've known him for years and I've interviewed. I just realized like tonight. I think tonight will be the fourth time I've interviewed him. And every time feels like the first. No. It really does though. I love this guy. I love his books. But first we got to do just a little bit of housekeeping. Got to pay those bills. Right? So let's get going. Tonight's show is brought to you by the EXP, of course, and Michael Gecko Adams, who's got a new series, Hero from Keen Spot, to keep up with what Mike's got going on. And trust me, folks, you want to keep up with what he's got going on, get over to geckoadams.com, sign up for his mailing list. If for some reason your shop can't get Hero, you can head over to the Keen Spot shop, get yourself a copy. There's a link in the show notes. Also, friendly reminder, the amazing book we're talking about tonight, there's a link in the notes. You click on that, you go to the Kickstarter page, you spend you some money and be a hero supporting indie comics. Ain't that neat? Ain't it neat? It's super neat. Super neat. All right, here. Let's keep going through it. Next up, I'm also working on Will Allred's crossover division. We are in pre-launch right now, but we are getting ready. Pre-launch follows help so much, and it's totally free. You just click it and follow it. It's amazing. There's a link in the show notes. You check that out. You are not seeing Image or Mirage, or I don't know where I was going with that. That is a real Tula Lote variant. Tula Lote coming to this Kickstarter campaign with an amazing variant for crossover division. It's going to be a fun one. And finally, I just wrapped up the Shaolin Nun, the Kickstarter campaign funded. Thank you all so much. That was amazing. We are currently doing late pledges. So if you get over to Kickstarter, if you missed out on the Kung Fu Crime Saga, that is Shaolin Nun from Laguna Studios, you can still get in on that. So you should probably do that. How do I make this picture go away? I do this every week. All right. Before we got people in the comments, we gotta say hi to Kenneth, always showing up early, saying, "Hey, love you, dude." Oh, did you miss the hot dog? Oh, we've never done this in an intro, but you did not miss the hot dog. This is the introductory hot dog comment. The hot dogs are still warm. They won't be for long. David's in the back room, like, what the hell? All right. Who else we got? Oh, Tommy, what's up, Mad Tommy? Tommy had a show last night that I missed because I'm a bad friend. I apologize. But Tommy goes live on the EXP on Tuesdays. They talk about new comics that come out every week. There's totally mustard in my beard. That's all right, though. All right. This is what you all came here to do, listening to me. I usually, time the hot dog bites when others are talking. That's why we don't eat hot dogs in the intro. But, we got to keep people on their toes. You got to see what's going on. You're midway through book 8. Oh, you're reading. You guys talking Dungeon Crawler? Oh, you guys talking. I don't want to get spoilers. I'm so vertical. Yeah, we're vertical. We're sideways. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. We're live everywhere. All right, let's go. I have mustard on my hand. All right. All right. Let's do it. Let's get this party started. We ready? All right, here we go. Let's get stuff. Let's get stuff queued up. Where's my mouse? All right. Get this here. All right. All right. Tonight's guest, one of my favorite people. I've interviewed him 4 freaking times now, and he always manages to get me more stoked about more comics. He wrote Cable. He took a drive with Speedrunner over at Mad Cave. He hopped over to Dynamite, where he's bringing my childhood heroes to life with Captain Planet and Space Ghost. But tonight, he's here to talk about the finale of his wildly popular Kickstarter series, the OZ. And he's about to be a dad, but don't you go calling him daddy. Let's bring him out. It's David Pepose!
What an intro, Blake. Thank you so much for having me. Having me on for the 4th time. They say you never forget your 4th. And so thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to talk about the return of the OZ with its 3rd and final issue, now live on Kickstarter. And excited to talk all things comics with you tonight, buddy.
live and fully funded, working on stretch goals. I'm always bad about this. I always do it late. But all right, so I'm gonna do an experiment. It's not really an experiment. I'm gonna ask you a question on an interview show. That's not a wild maneuver. All right, let's pretend. You mentioned in the green room you were bummed you missed Comics Pro, right? And there was a really cool part of Comics Pro where, like, between the round tables and the presentations and stuff, there was like kind of a mini convention where you go around. They gave you, I didn't know you got free books. They gave us all this free stuff, and people were there to sign it. And I met all these creators. It was like a very intimate, small, chill con, like just for this like group of like less than 600 people. It was so cool. All right, so let's pretend you're there. I'm coming through. I'm wild. I'm so sweaty, David, because I've been running cable. I was there doing audio video. I was a sweaty boy. So like I'm sweaty. I'm weird. Oh my God, David, you got these comics all over your table. They're looking so juicy and delicious. There's these 2 issues. You're mentioning the third. The finale's coming on Kickstarter. That's what this sign says with a QR code. I'm assuming that's what you'd have on your table. All right. What is the OZ? Let me know what this bad mammer jammer is.
So for those who are not familiar with the OZ, and it's been a little while since our last campaign, the OZ is Mad Max meets the Wizard of Oz. It's the story of Dorothy Gale's granddaughter, who's an Iraq war veteran who's caught up in a tornado and stranded in the war-torn land of Oz. And that's when she learns all of her grandmother's tall tales were not only true, but her killing 2 wicked witches and convincing the Wizard of Oz to leave and then abruptly vanishing. That's not a happy ending. That's a power vacuum, not unlike Baghdad. And so now our new Dorothy has to team up with her grandmother's former friends, the Tin Soldier, the Prince of Lions, and Jack Pumpkinhead, in order to bring peace to the occupied zone, or as the locals call it, the OZ. So this book is perfect if you're a fan of Mad Max, if you like the old guard, if you like fables. This book is perfect for you. We won the Ringo Award in 2021 for our first issue, for best single issue. And I can tell you that it's been a while since the last campaign, but Ruben Rojas has been working steadily on the artwork since the end of the last campaign. The book is 100% finished. Fully drawn, fully colored, fully lettered. So all we are doing now is just selling the book to you. And I promise you, having read the whole thing, this finale is going to be worth the wait.
That is so exciting. This, I can't remember what because the first time I interviewed you was on that other podcast, and I interviewed you with somebody else, and I can't remember what the book was. I think it was, Scouts Honor, maybe.
Yeah,
no, Scouts Honor was, I don't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Back in the before times, COVID hadn't even happened yet. We were all still alive. You still spit in people's mouths and live free. No, I'm sorry. Anyway. But you were, when I wasn't privy to this. And when we were interviewing you, you and the co-host, you guys started talking about this. And I was like, what are you talking about? The Wizard of Oz and a war and an event? And I was like, and it blew me away. And I still remember reading the first. I'm not trying to juice you up, right? But like, I'm kind of trying to juice you up. But like, reading this was like one of those critical comic reading moments for me. Like I like second grade me reading the Death of Superman trade, right? I didn't know about it. We didn't have the internet, like, I don't think we really had the internet. We did not have the internet. That was a long time ago. But so, like there wasn't stuff. See, I almost knocked my cup over. There wasn't stuff to like hear about this comic news, right? And so like I was just a kid. I had no idea Superman could die, right? And then my dad brings me this also a giant comic book full of mini comic books that I'd never seen. So I was like introduced to a trade paperback and like, hey, Superman's dead now. And so it was just crazy. But like that was like a critical comic moment for me. Reading Lock and Key. Getting caught up, and then having to wait month to month to finish, and like, like that amazing terribleness, right? That was another one. For real, in that group is reading the OZ, because I was just like, we're all so familiar with this story, right? Yeah. Everybody is, even if you're an outcast and have somehow managed to never see the movie or something weird like that, right? Like we all know the Wizard of Oz. We all know that dog's name. We know Dorothy. We know the red slippers. You click them together and we know everything. Yeah. You think you know everything as you read this, right? And you turn everything on its head. The art and the writing is wondrous, right? And But it makes sense. Like, you really get the story, you get these characters, and you realize you're like, wow, this really is not that far fetched. Like, like in a land that you like travel to via tornado, like it's already out there, but you just really understood that story. And I've probably asked you this question
Sure.
4 times every time I've
No,
interviewed you. But where, like, remind me, dude, like, how did this
come to be?
Yeah, how did you know? You were like, I have to tell this. I have to tell this no matter what. I have to tell this no matter if, like, I have deadlines from major publishers and a crazy, like, comic book life right now and still have to finish this. Like, you made this a very big priority in your career.
Yeah. Well, some of it is easy in terms of the juggling of the schedule because this book has been written for a very long time. I wrote the entirety of this series. It was done, the scripts were done before I launched the first Kickstarter. So this thing's been in the works for many years. I started writing this kind of in the aftermath of my first book, Spencer and Locke, which, for those who aren't familiar with the book, you can get the trade as an add-on on the Kickstarter. The high concept of that book was, what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City? That was my very first book, and I wasn't sure. I knew there were going to be people who just did not like it because we were, it was kind of skewering a sacred cow, though I love Bill Watterson and Calvin and Hobbes. It was sort of, I saw it as a love letter. But there were some people who didn't appreciate that level of subversion. And then there were going to be people who loved it just based on the audacity of it all and to see, like, are they going to stick the landing on this? And as the dust kind of settled, I was really pleasantly amazed that overwhelmingly people really enjoyed that book. We were nominated for 5 Ringo Awards. It really kind of proved some theories that I had about taking certain properties that we all know and love and sort of stretching them and seeing how versatile they can be tonally and in terms of genre, as long as it's something that's a real story. It's not shock for shock value's sake. There's something intrinsic to the core that we can then tell a story out of. So for Spencer and Locke, it was, why did Calvin have to so vividly imagine his own best friend? I remember before my siblings were born, I was an only child. I had real friends. I didn't need that. What if that imagination was actually a symptom of a darker pathology? That it was sort of his own coping mechanism for a particularly harrowing childhood. And then what happens when he carries that coping mechanism into adulthood? How does he sort of face that past? For the OZ, it was very similar. As I was kind of coming off Spencer and Locke, I was thinking about different food groups that I wanted to write. And so, there was sci-fi, there was fantasy, there was romance. I wound up writing down 3 ideas. Going to the Chapel, which came out right on the heels of Spencer and Locke. My long gestating sci-fi book, Grand Theft Astro, that we're just looking for a new artist and a new publisher on. And then the OZ. The way the OZ happened was I was writing down just fantasy, iconic fantasy, like it was, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter before we realized J.K. Rowling was a bigot. And, and then I wrote down The Wizard of Oz. And it's one of those crazy bits of coincidence. My computer froze while I was writing that. And so I'm watching as my cursor is stuck in between the word Oz. And as I'm sitting there waiting for my computer to unfreeze, I'm like, oh, Oz, that's like, it's short, it's punchy. That could be an acronym, seeing that cursor right in the middle of it. And so I started just kind of playing around with like, well, what could the acronym mean? And as soon as I came across the words, the occupied zone, that cover that's right on your screen right now, that's the image that kind of hit me immediately, where I was like, hey, like, the idea of Dorothy as this soldier giving us this 1,000-yard stare, sitting in the ruins of a war-torn Oz, and you see this hulking juggernaut Tin Man behind her. Ruben Rojas, our amazing artist, he's very much on my wavelength, and so he really understood exactly what I was going for with that cover. And as I thought about the story, it made perfect sense. We see, you said it before. The Wizard of Oz is part of the cultural zeitgeist. We can all imagine Dorothy and Tin Man and Scarecrow and Toto and the lion, doing the chorus line down the yellow brick road. But when you think about it, like, Dorothy really destabilized several major pillars in, 3 out of 4 of the major sort of powers of Oz are all gone by the time she's left. 2 wicked witches and the wizard. It just leaves Glinda. And so I thought the idea of that and her vanishing, it really served that fantasy war kind of story. And it allowed me to kind of tell a lot of stories that I had heard when I was a newspaper reporter, interviewing veterans returning home and hearing the stories of sort of the challenges and struggles that they had reintegrating back into civilian life, dealing with PTSD and traumatic brain injury, and just sort of how do you go back home when things are so different, and the things that you have seen. What happens when home is a place that doesn't exist anymore? And so that became the OZ. And so it's been a long time coming, working on this third and final issue. But I want to make it clear that this wasn't Pepose got tapped at Marvel, and so he said bye-bye to the OZ. We've been actually really hard at work on this since the last campaign. Like I said, it's already been written. So what happened was, life kind of happened as far as our artist was concerned, our amazingly talented artist, Ruben Rojas. I didn't want to start this third campaign until the book was done. And so Ruben, even our last campaign was a little bit delayed because talking with Ruben, we kind of underestimated how long it would take him to finish the second issue. And our printer got hit by a hurricane. I didn't want that to happen for the third issue. I wanted to make sure it was 100% done when we started. And so I talked to Ruben and I said, listen, what do you think the time frame is? And, Ruben got married. He had a kid. He was in Spain during the worst of COVID, which really did a number on the economy. And I believe there was something with either one of his parents or one of his wife's parents, but that was a lot for him to juggle on top of a day job and raising a child. And so he kind of had to Shawshank his way through this giant sized last issue. It's 44 pages.
Wow.
So it took a little while to kind of just chip through all those pages. Ruben and I were in contact almost every other week from the last campaign until he finished his pages, I believe, in the fall. And so we had Whitney Kogar working on the colors piecemeal. She finished the colors on that book around the holidays. And then I finished the lettering pass in February. And so that was kind of a fun, almost out of body experience, looking at this art for this thing that I scripted back in 2020 as a much younger, scrappier writer who had no idea what future lay ahead of him, and having a little bit more of a seasoned, experienced hand, being able to just do little nips and tucks, to sort of cut fat where I could, but to still make the thing read consistently. And so that was kind of, DC Hopkins, I should say, our letterer, just finished the lettering fairly recently. So, now we're off to the races. But I want to make it very clear, this was not any issue of any of us not loving the OZ. This is a book that means the world to me. This is the book that I really kind of, the most I've taken a leap of faith really since Spencer and Locke. This book, I bet on everything. I bet the house on this book, I bet it on because I had faith in my team and I had faith in the story and the concept. And our Yellow Brick Road Warriors have not let us down. 3 campaigns in a row. We are fully funded. So this book is happening. And on top of all that, we're making it very streamlined. So I don't have to chase anybody for anything. We're not slowing anything down. I've kind of tailored our rewards as such so that the only thing we need when the campaign ends is your name and your shipping address.
Nice.
We're working with the team at Comic Impressions who did the last 2 issues. So they know how the OZ is supposed to look. We've worked with them before. So that's going to be very smooth. And we're working with the amazing team at Laguna Studios for fulfillment. So that way you don't have to wait for a guy who's writing 4 books and has a baby due next month.
You're working with us?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I work at Laguna Studios. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I've been, me and Lori have been going back and forth. She's very nice.
That's sick.
So yeah, I didn't know you were with Laguna. But yeah, we're working with Laguna to handle all the fulfillment on all this. They're very experienced. They've worked on many Kickstarter campaigns, and they've come very highly recommended from people I trust in the Kickstarter community.
Coming up on 50. They're coming up on 50 successful fulfilled campaigns. It's crazy.
So it's really exciting. But my thinking has been, our backers have been so patient and so passionate, and they've been, every convention I go to, people always ask, when's the OZ coming back? And believe me, I've been chomping at the bit just as much as you. And now it's finally here. And my pledge has always been, you've waited long enough. I'm not making you wait 1 second longer. So yeah, we've got our third and final issue. But also, if you're new, we've got catch-up tiers in both print and digital. We've got a la carte options, so you can literally mix and match across all 14 variant covers we've done so far. So yeah, it's going to be really neat. I'm very excited for this story to really stick the landing. We've got a few tricks up our sleeves, both in terms of the book and the campaign. Yeah, you're going to want to stay on your toes. You're going to want to back the OZ. And also, I should add, if you've missed out on any of my other work, we've got all of my other trade paperbacks as add-ons on every physical tier. So if you want to read Spencer and Locke, which is out of print, you can get copies from my stash. If you want to read Scout's Honor or Double the Where's My Face or Space Ghost or Speed Racer or the upcoming Captain Planet trade when that comes out in September, where you can get any of that in the campaign.
That's so awesome and smart. I always advise people to do that. I'm like, well, also, it's like kind of like a garage sale, right?
Yeah.
Like you can like go through your comps and put, maybe no one buys them, right? But like maybe a couple people do, maybe, and then you sign them, you make a few extra bucks. And
I have lots of copies. I buy lots of stock for my books because
you do.
I never know when I'm doing signings. I never know when I'm doing conventions, and I've always treated my trades as currency. And so it wound up being kind of forward thinking for books, that are now unavailable to get anywhere else. You can't get Spencer and Locke or Scout's Honor or the first volume of Space Ghost. Two of those books all three of those books are locked in the Diamond Warehouse.
Your Savage Avengers didn't
Savage Avengers
sell it out of that too?
It might have, but I certainly have copies of it.
Yeah, you should buy them then.
So you can get any and all of these books, and you can mix and match them, or you can get them in discounted bundle sets. Or if you're a diehard fan of mine, you can get everything. We've got that all at a discount price as well. So yeah, we're really trying to kind of invite people to the table at any price point or format, and just kind of introduce them to the whole of my work.
Scrolling through all that, you've written like so much, and it's just like you can just continue to keep writing these like amazing stories. Both like that are your characters, and you take other characters for a stroll.
Yeah,
I have a question, but first we gotta say hey to some comments. Cole wants to know why he can't call you daddy. I feel like it's just not polite. He's a married man.
I'm a married man.
Stony Williams in the chat saying Blake and David too much. We're gonna break the internet. We just may. Right. Matt Harding's in the chat asking if you're looking for an artist.
I love you, Matt.
He's a stellar drawer, I will say. We got some love for Ruben. Ruben is absolutely so talented. Trades is current. You're teaching people, David. You're teaching people. Bakugo, thanks for coming in. Everybody's in the chat, popping in. Y'all are so awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So this question I have, David. You are now at this moment in your career that like a lot of indie people. It used to be, right, it was like, we're going to do Kickstarter, but like, we want to be at Marvel, we want to be in the comic shops, we want to be at DC, I want to write Batman, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? It's like,
yeah.
So like that's like the goal. And so like, you did that, you like wrote at Marvel, right? And then, and then you got some big IP work at like Dynamite and Indie and then Mad Cave. And so like, you've done that. So like, you have these like astronomical books out, right? And like IP work and your own. And you're at shows, right? And people are coming up to you, hounding you about a Kickstarter. Right? What's that? That's got to feel like really good, right? It's not diminishing the work you've done at these publishers, but like even at these like big publishers, like you've done it. Like that's the end game goal for most people. People are still coming up to you like, when's the OZ coming back? Like we need this, we need it in our lives. Like, and it's just what's that like? And is it hard? Was it hard? Like I know like I'm sure the wait was hard, but like
well, listen, the wait was very hard because I'm impatient by nature and I want to see the books just as badly, if not more so, than anybody else. And it really came down to though that I wanted the OZ to remain consistent, from beginning to end, because I knew first off that there were going to be people who saw this third issue. I've been lucky, like you said, I've had a whole ass career since this last Kickstarter came out. And so I knew there were going to be new people who maybe had been introduced to me through other bits of my work. So I wanted to make sure it stayed consistent from beginning to end, that whether you're new to the campaign or you're returning for the third time, when you read the thing from start to finish, it's going to feel cohesive. It's going to feel like it's got the same creative team consistently from beginning to end. And so the whole thing is going to hit like a truck. But also, I owe that to Ruben. Ruben is an amazing artist and an exceptional collaborator. And like I said, he's a guy who not only knows his best angles, but he and I are very much on the same creative wavelength. We really clicked in a way that I've never clicked with another artist before. And so I felt like he's the heart of the OZ. He breathes so much life into it with his amazing designs and his storytelling that I was like, I owe this to this man, like I'm going to keep this going. But yeah, it definitely, of course, when people were asking like, oh, when's the book coming out? Of course it was always a challenge when I didn't have the answer, but I knew it came from a place of enthusiasm and passion for our work. And that really means the world to me. Like, I feel like it's very rare that I've had a book that I haven't felt 1,000% confident in. And I've been very lucky with my batting average that the vast majority of my work I look back on and I'm like, it still holds up, like still feel really good at it. Wouldn't change a thing. Like I look back on it, even when, warts and all, I'm like, that's the best work I could do at the level I was at that time. And that it still works. So yeah, I've always been thrilled when people have asked about it. But I will say I was exceptionally thrilled when I was able to tell people it's coming back. I was at Denver, a Fan Expo Denver a few weeks ago, and brought a few copies of the OZ. And I was so thrilled. I mean, that thing flew off my table. And people were like, oh yeah, like that's cool. That's a cool concept. I want to check that out. So, yeah, I'm so proud of this book. I'm proud of our team. And I'm proud that this is a book that's made it this far in its own steam. I originally developed the OZ for a publisher and we made it to the 1 yard line. And I wound up getting
I hope they feel stupid. I know you've never told me who it was, but I know the story, and it shocks me. There's a lot of good Kickstarter projects out there that blows my mind they aren't at publishers.
I'm going to give them some grace in that we were up against another fantasy book by creators that were a little more established. And I only had the one book under my name. We didn't have Ruben attached to the book. It was still like, all I had was sort of the concept and the outline. But I will say that editor did me a huge solid in that he told me afterwards, I'm sorry this didn't work, but don't give up on it. This is good. And so I found Ruben like the next week, and we started work on it. So I think that editor did me an incredible solid by giving me that level of encouragement. And wow. So yeah, and I will say it's
put a way better spin on that than I would have, David.
Well, listen,
bitter, cranky man. I'm 40.
Most editors wouldn't tell me that. Most editors would just do the very neutral or sort of negative neutral. It's not what we're looking for. It's not really it. So I don't begrudge that editor one bit. And I will say, it's been really nice that we sort of bet on ourselves. It was the leap of faith that, if we went on Kickstarter, we would find our readership, and that readership came through with a vengeance. And they've continued to show up, even in the year of our Lord 2026, given the economy and social media landscape that we inhabit.
Did you fund faster? Like, were you keeping? Oh, obviously, I'm sure you were keeping an eye on it. But this felt like one of the faster.
We funded on day one, and that was what I was thrilled for. We funded about maybe a little bit later than the first campaign.
Okay.
But not by much. Maybe like another hour or two.
Okay.
But I will say, for a 5-year gap. And being in the year 26, I was like, those are good odds to me. Are there any hot dogs in the OZ? Yeah, I'm sure there's sausages of some kind. I don't know if Blake would know better about the entomology of an old school sausage versus a hot dog and whatnot.
If it's
I'm sure that sausages certainly exist. But
thanks, man.
Yeah, this book means everything to me, and it's really changed not just my career, but my life in very material ways. I mean, first off, the OZ, that book helped get me noticed at Marvel. That book won us a Ringo Award. I frankly, this, I wouldn't have been able to afford IVF for my daughter, who's going to be born next month, if I had not done these Kickstarters. Like,
wow,
this book has had made a material difference in my family's lives. Like, it's enormous. And so that's the thing, the energy I've always tried to bring when people have asked when the OZ is coming back, is this is a book I've wanted nothing more than to bring back. And we've been steadily chipping our way through it. But now, we sort of made it through the storm, and the book is done and it looks great. So that's why I'm pushing everybody. If you're listening to us right now, check out the Kickstarter page. It's at tinyurl.com/theOZcomic. We're trying to make it really simple. We would love to have you join us as a Yellow Brick Road Warrior. We've got some really exciting stretch goals that we're going to be announcing. I think I'm going to be announcing the first one later today. You know what? Screw it. You know what? Since I'm on the show and we're going to talk about it, I will tell you right here, Blake's Buzz exclusive, what our first stretch goal is going to be. We're going to debut this at $15,000. So just another 1,500. We are adding 8 more pages to the book. Plus, so you're actually getting 16 more pages to this book. And so this is something that we've been very excited about. It's something that is not going to affect the delivery time on this whatsoever. It is just our special thank you for all of our Yellow Brick Road Warriors for supporting us, across all 3 Kickstarters. So $15,000, you're going to get 16 more pages worth of stuff. So tell your friends, back the campaign, because I want to make that stuff happen for you.
This is amazing. This is all so cool. Matt is killing me in the comments though, because I've been waiting to ask you this. So part of what I do at I manage campaigns at Laguna. If people want that, I do a lot of Kickstarter help, and I do all the actual like Laguna publishing campaigns. Yeah. And it's, I see creators stress, right? I work with them. I try and alleviate it. Not everybody can hire someone like me, or sure, or doesn't want to, wants to save the money or use it for other stuff. But it's a stressful, Kickstarter is a stressful time. Fulfillment is a stressful time. You're not doing it this time, but you've told me your fulfillment horror stories where like your post office like turned you away at one. They were like, "Leave us alone, David." And they
told me I had to go around the back. Is what they told me. So I had a laundry cart filled with Gemini mailers, and I had to wheel it around the block.
So you have decided to tie your Kickstarter campaign, and you tweeted, or you mentioned this on social media the other day, that like you kind of timed it where the campaign ends right around baby time, and Matt's been in here like, first he's saying, "Where's the baby?"
The baby is currently inside my wife. It did not. I gotta say, it did not. This was not meant to be the plan, and this plan only shifted in the last like 7 days.
Okay.
But. Yes, the Thursday before the campaign, my wife's doctor said, actually, we're going to deliver this baby 2 weeks early. And so my body decided to respond by throwing a kidney stone. So it was, that was a wild 72 hours right before the Kickstarter started. But, I always say better then than when I have to launch. But yeah, it's kind of wild, this idea of sort of doing this kind of great big creative push, knowing that my life is going to change within.
Knowing that your wife's about to do a great big creative push, a sequence of them.
Yeah,
Matt said if there's anything that helps bringing a brand new baby home, it's also having to. I think
she'll be. I think it'll comfort her in the end when I whisper in her ear, "Back the OZ." While she's pushing. No, so, it's one of those things though. I think it speaks to comics as a profession, which is you got to learn to roll with the punches, but also the show must go on. Yeah. And so you have to kind of figure out how do you, get the thing done when things shift. And so I think it's very appropriate. And I just keep telling little baby sweet pea in there. I'm like, just hold on, please, to week 37. That's all I'm asking for. Then the campaign will be done. I won't have to be doing a promo from the delivery room. But yes, I will say, I remember chatting with another journalist who was saying, he's like, you should just add diapers as an add-on. I do want to keep the campaign, strictly professional, but I thought about it for a hot minute. I was like, I wonder how many people would just add on like a $20 diaper. Like, you don't get anything, but my daughter, keeps her butt covered for, one more day.
Yeah. Dude, I would have. I would have so done that.
That's funny. But yeah, it's been so wonderful. Everybody's been so supportive, but also diaper remarks. Everyone's been so supportive, and I think it's certainly it's reflected in my work. I mean, the OZ is interesting in that it's a time capsule in a lot of ways of who I was as a writer in the year 2020. Where I was much more raw and much more scrappy and hungry and also anxious. I had no idea sort of what the future held and if I knew what I was doing. But you see it certainly in my recent work. I mean, Space Ghost in particular. You can read that book and be like, you can see certain issues where you'll probably be like, oh, that guy's wife is pregnant, and by the time our big Space Ghost event kicks off in September, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's definitely a guy who wrote that when his wife was in her third trimester. So yeah, I think everybody says that having a kid is going to sort of add so much perspective to my life. And it's also going to be just like a challenge, just in terms of keeping a living creature alive on little to no sleep. But I'm excited for it. I'm the older brother of triplets. My younger siblings are about 9 years younger than me. And so I do remember those days in 1995 when we were strapping in 3 car seats into our van. So I will say, I think I do have a slight advantage in that I'm doing it one at a time. So yeah, I'm very excited. Stage 1 of getting my very own Jan and Jace is hopefully soon to be upon me.
Nice. You might have said Kyle Baker made some incredible books just telling stories about his kids.
That's
so that sounds like, I've done a lot of work like at my old job and just with some clients and Kickstarter people. There are a lot of like parents that like kind of work with their kids and Jimmy Gasparo at Comic Book Yeti just did Yeti and like anyway, it's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to. It's obviously like big life events. Are going to adjust your voice a little bit, even like temporary, Scott Snyder got a little, and I don't mean this offensively, but like a little softer for a while. And then later people found out like one of his sons was real sick and they had like some issues at home and it was like, oh shit, he was going through it.
Yeah.
And then he came back and then he came back and he put out the weird dark image book where there's like all dark and night all the time. Yeah. Like everybody
launched the same day as the OZ. So that book, we're always going to be tied to.
I forgot about that. But same thing. Like he kind of like went through this change, like as a father. And I'm saying this as an outsider. I've never talked to Scott and asked him these intimate questions. Right?
He's a nice guy. I like him a lot.
It was like around that same time, and then now like he's getting back to that. He's Snappy Scotty, and they're doing absolute stuff, and an absolute is just absolutely brutal. But no, I look forward to kind of seeing the new stories you tell, like how, like what Father David's, not like Priest David, but like Father David's voice is.
I mean, Rabbi David.
It's going to change something. It's going to make you think about stuff differently. It's going to make you think about dialogue differently and how scenes transition and what's really important and worth fighting for, all that shit. It's going to kind of run through you. And are you excited to, I don't want to sound like a dick because I'm a childless heathen, but like, again, you have, like you said, like you made a whole ass career in between the last issue of OZ and this new one. Like, are you worried or hesitant about what like big life changes may do to how you deal with deadlines, how you deal with scripts?
No, I mean, I think the good thing is that I've put in my reps, and so this is very much kind of muscle memory. Like I still need to do work, I still need to think about it and sort of try to put my head in the characters. But in terms of structure, in terms of pacing, in terms of sort of doing the diagnostic work and figuring out like what works and what doesn't, I've had times where my back's been up against the wall in terms of juggling a lot of deadlines. I mean, there was a period about a year or so ago when I was writing Space Ghost, Speed Racer, Cable, and Captain Planet all at the same time, and
Wow.
I've managed to still make that work. So I think like that I'm less worried about can I still do the work, but I think it's going to be a nice dose of perspective. I think both in terms of how I approach my writing, but also how I view my career. This job has been everything to me, and now I'm going to be responsible for a human life. And so, I'm still going to deliver 110% to the job when I'm at the job, but I have to now make it sort of a priority to make sure there are times that I'm not on the job.
Yeah.
So, it's always sort of, and this sort of thing is something that I'm constantly refining my process. I'm constantly sort of figuring out like, how can I do what I do faster without sacrificing quality, And so, yeah, it'll be interesting for, the first little while. And thankfully, I think I'm pacing my schedule as such that, I should be able to kind of keep everything straight. But, I at the same time, like, it'll be kind of nice to sort of take it a little slower. People keep saying kids, that's what they do, is that they sort of force you to slow down and you get to see the world through their eyes. And I think that's going to be a really interesting experience. And I think that's going to be something that for me, both as a human being, but also as a storyteller, is going to be really rejuvenating, because all these things that we take for granted as adults, I'm going to be seeing them through, a little one for the first time. And so I think that's going to be like interesting. And I think it's going to sort of open my eyes to storytelling possibilities that I might have previously overlooked.
Ian's in the chat saying, "Who lied to you, David?" I'm sure there's. Well, I know I put my parents through a lot of shit, but like, I also know like, there's I'm sure like, I've seen my friends with kids and stuff, and it's just like, I can't imagine. Like, it terrifies me even thinking about it, but I also can't. Like when my sister was little, or like my little cousin, like it was like kids are fun, but I could always like give them away later, like it was like okay, like here's Caleb back, like I'm gonna go play video games.
Yes, I I think kind of taking the reverse of that. Somebody told me this in an interview recently, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, which is this kind of legacy that I'm leaving for my kids, these mementos of who I am. Of every interview, like there's going to be a day is where my kids are going to be able to look and see this interview.
And this weirdo eating hot dogs talking to my dead dad.
And I'll say that was just the style of the times in 2026. Don't worry about it. Plug back into your VR. But like I always say, as long as my daughter doesn't bring home an AI boyfriend, like I'm fine. And so. Yeah, I think it's nice. I think that's going to be something else that motivates me in my work. Nice. And the OZ, like the Kickstarter, like you said, it's sort of, you get to see all of my work. You get to see all these trades. You get to see, the conclusion of this long running storyline. And I think it's going to be, like that's something I would love to leave my kids, is that like one day when I'm gone, they'll have the books. And while the books are not a substitute for me, as I always tell my wife when I'm paying my life insurance premium, it's still a reflection of who I was, and in a way, it sort of speaks to some of those deeper truths that maybe I'm not conscious of, maybe I'm not able to articulate, but they still appear in the work. And I think you think about that, and that it's sort of like the OZ in a lot of ways. This story is about sort of this, you grow up here in our society, it feels so normal. And then you go overseas and everything changes. And then you come back and this place feels so alien. And so sometimes you can't trust your own memories. I think that's the reason why the story still resonates, is we're all kind of dealing with that sense of mourning, I think, in this country, at least, is that, we've been in a sense of mourning really for 10 years now. Is that I think we all have been disillusioned at some point, with the country, either sort of reading the headlines or reading history. But I think we're in a particularly dark time. And so we're all in this sense of mourning, of sort of this memory we had of the ideals of this country, maybe not being what we thought, and maybe it never existed at all. And how do we sort of overcome that sort of distorted memory to kind of build a better future that seems perpetually out of reach? And, the OZ is certainly about sort of these assumptions that we make, these things that we think we know about ourselves, and that we realize, no, it's something completely different. That there are sometimes secrets that change everything. We certainly got a few that are going to turn in this last issue that are going to turn the whole series on its head. But also, just like, how do we sort of keep going? How do we fight for a better future? How do we fight for, against fascism that sort of seems to be creeping in every corner around us? How do we resist that and sort of stay true to who we are? But also, how do we face the unintended consequences of our good intentions? These are all kinds of questions that sometimes it makes me sad that they still resonate, but I think as far as this book, it makes the book, no pun intended, fairly evergreen. But I think that's ultimately talking about growing up, and taking these sort of childhood icons and having them grow up with us. And I think that's maybe sort of, if you had to boil down every book in my career, that's kind of what it is. And so that's something that I think is going to be an interesting theme to explore in real time with a kid.
Nice. By the way, you got something to look forward to. My buddy who does the Cat and Knot, there's an amazing indie book called The Cat and I. It's hilarious with beautiful art. It's super intriguing. Everybody should check it out. But his kid apparently draws the backgrounds on the previously pages, which is heartwarming and adorable. But the best part about this is you ain't got to pay that kid shit. You don't have to pay that art. That is free art. Those are free graphical assets made by human hands that AI did not create. That is genius. I used to joke around, like my friend. I have a buddy that has one of my friends has 3 kids. And I have another buddy who's got like 5. I think Robert's got 5 kids. And I was like, how many chores do you need him to do a week, man? Like, one does the gutters, one mows the lawn, you got the trash. Like, you just keep, anyway. I know children aren't just for manual labor, folks. I know. But yeah, it's, I'm super excited for you. And it's just like, my dad is not nerdy, right?
Sure.
But he is the reason I'm a nerd. Like that Death of Superman story. Like, my dad was the janitor at my school, and he would go to the comic book. We had a comic book shop for a short time that was like down the street from my house, and it closed. It didn't have a lot of business. But my dad would go there, and he would be like, what's the cool thing? And the guy would get it for me every now and then if I was like being a good kid or whatever. And he literally like came out of like his recess, 2nd grade. He comes out and hands me the Death of Superman tray. He's like, hey, I got this for you at the shop today. The guy said it was a cool thing. And so like he always supported me being a nerd. He thinks the podcast is cool, but he doesn't even know how to listen to a podcast, right? And he's just always been very supportive. And we used to go see all the big nerdy movies together, but then now he falls asleep in theaters, and he's weird. He's not very tall, and he gets aggravated when his feet don't touch the floor when he sits in chairs. Anyway.
I know the feeling. Yeah, I get that.
But I just never. He wasn't a nerd. Like, we connect over Chiefs football and some other stuff. Weed. Like, my dad and I connect over that. Great. But we never. I don't have a lot of real life comic book people, so I just can't imagine what it would be like growing up in a nerdy household. Like I've had friends be like, oh yeah, like my dad's comic book collection or what, and it's just like, or I couldn't, like, my dad's crazy comps from all the publishers he's worked at over the, just all the stuff that like your kid's going to get to experience in like a different way, and to kind of grow up in a more nerdy embracing household. I just think it's rad.
I think it's all about passion, and whatever my kid is passionate about, I'm going to follow their lead. I mean, and I think the story you said about your dad was beautiful. And I think it's very similar to my story. I mean, I'm a third generation fan. But it's not that wasn't like imposed upon me. That was, my grandfather read comics. He used to read me Calvin and Hobbes as a kid. He passed that down to my mother, who got me my first comic. I want to say it was Amazing Spider-Man. What was it? 346. Yes, got it in one. Amazing Spider-Man 346 by David Michelini and Eric Larson. Spider-Man and Venom right before the island. That thing rewired my brain. That's the reason I'm talking to you today. It's the reason why I have a career and the life I'm so lucky to enjoy. But I think it makes me grateful for all the people who've sort of, gotten me here, and I think that's something that the OZ is a real reminder of for me, more than almost any other book I've done, because I love that when people love what I do on Space Ghost. It means the world to me that people read that, reading Speed Racer. But I don't know everybody who's read Space Ghost. I've talked to, I've personally,
you have their addresses. You can
every
go
single
find
person
them.
who's ever bought the OZ. I've spoken to you. I've sent you thank you notes.
That's awesome.
And that's a level of intimacy that in an industry is already very intimate, that you can meet creators, at any convention, you can meet your readers. That's even a circle closer. So it means a lot to me. I never take it for granted, all the people who have helped me get to where I am today. There's this army of readers and retailers and press and creators, fellow creators and collaborators and editors, and all these people who have sort of formed this village and championed me every step of the way. I would not be able to do what I do without people like you, without people like the people who are listening, the people who are writing comments. And I don't forget that. I'm grateful for that. It's the thing that gets me out of bed every day to deliver my A game. So I know that sometimes it feels you can feel a little self-conscious promoting a Kickstarter, that you are out there pounding pavement all the time, constantly tweaking things to see what works. Things have changed a lot since my last Kickstarter. But I'm always grateful. I'm grateful for the people who show up. And so if you're watching, we would love to have you as a member of our Emerald Army. We would love to have you join us in the OZ. We've got Dorothy versus the Strawman Scarecrow Army with her silver slippers strapped to her foot, trying to save two worlds at the same time. And we've got this big blockbuster finale of just these two armies kind of crashing into each other. Somebody compared it to Avengers Endgame, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah. But also, like I said, we've got some real big twists in this book. We've got at least two, but every character is going to have kind of a big moment, whether it's big on the page or it's deeply personal to them. But every character is going to have their moment, and so this book is really some of the best work I've ever been a part of. Ruben and Whitney Kogar and DC Hopkins are this amazing super team, and our amazing Murderers Row of cover artists, Mon House and Joshua Hood and Serge Acuna. And I will say, we traditionally have had secret fifth covers in the past campaigns. I wouldn't be surprised if a fifth one might arrive at some point during the campaign. So keep your eyes peeled because we've got lots of fun stuff. And I'm just so grateful for comics as a community, for the Kickstarter community in particular, how passionate they are, how omnivorous and adventurous in their tastes they are, how they are willing to support creators and really put their money where their mouths are. It means the world to us. And so, we're going to give you your money's worth on this book. Like I said, the book is double sized, but we're going for a stretch goal to make it another 16 pages, 8 of story, 8 of pinups. And also, we'll have PDFs of Spencer and Locke #1, going to the Chapel #1, my superhero book with George Santiago Jr., Roxy Rewind #1. So you're going to get 108 pages just at the baseline tier. And that's on top of any add-on purchases you would like to make. So, or if you want to catch up on the whole series. And we'll also have behind the scenes materials for any issues you buy. So, you may think you know the story of Oz, but this is the story that comes next. So we invite you to join us in the trenches of the OZ.
The 2 issues I've read like blew my mind. I'm very, very excited for the 3rd. But we got more kid comic stories. I guess Axe Cop was written by a 5-year-old, and the story was drawn by his older brother. That's pretty rad. Got some Dave Pepose love in the chat from Austin Hamlin, another awesome creator.
I saw that. I
following your work since Spencer and Locke, deserves all the success. Recently, back in Kickstarters. Joel says, I think this is Joel. I'm not sure. I think I'm sorry if you're not Joel. But he says comics have been the best community he's found in this crazy world. You all keep deepening that belief. Yeah, the Kickstarter community is like magical. It's how I pay my bills. It's absolutely my whole life. I live in fear every day that like AI is going to sweep it out from under my feet. I'm going to be like if the only thing that like saves us is that like comics, so many people hate a lot of outside. There's a lot of outside people of comics that hate AI too, but like comics is like vehemently spit on, right? In the comics medium. So like, if you did, Kickstarter is rough enough. Like if you came out with like AI graphics and stuff, like you'd get torched.
No,
so it's the only thing keeping me alive right now.
Definitely, absolutely.
Oh, sweet, it is Joel. Sweet, I'm not an asshole. All right, I know my audience too, David.
Yeah.
Man, I'm just so happy for you. It was just scrolling through the Kickstarter page and like all the big work you've done like in the last couple years, and I mean, you just keep wowing us in one way or another, and whether it's your own characters or someone else's, it's really amazing how you can bring that like Pepose magic to those like different levels. Because like when you're doing character IP work, you don't get to do everything you want. You know, like you try, I'm sure, but I'm sure even as good as you are, a couple times you've been told no, or that you have to do something a certain way to go with the brand and stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've certainly had books where there's been directives sort of already in play, even before I kind of signed on to the book. But I'm really fortunate right now in that I really do have a ton of latitude in all of the books I'm working on right now. Between the OZ and Space Ghost and Speed Racer, our licensors have been really amazing and really kind of given us a lot of freedom. I sort of gave them a very detailed proposal, so it's really helped. And I still have more creator-owned work in the pipeline. I'm actually starting on another creator-owned book right now with my Devil That Wears My Face collaborator, Alex Cormick.
Oh no!
I'm writing the first script of that now, and then possibly one more big kind of cool action thing kicking off, possibly in 27. It's in the publisher's hands right now. They're giving it a look over. So fingers crossed. If that winds up happening, that's going to be the other big swing in 27 besides Space Ghost Volume 3.
That is awesome. I love that. Alex is such a sweetheart, and he draws the most terrifying pictures. I love that.
Yes,
man.
He is. Such an amazing collaborator.
I know. I know we're coming up on the amount of time tonight because he's in pre-daddy mode. All right, I can call him daddy because it's my show. He's in pre-daddy mode. He's got to do pre-daddy things and get ready for work stuff. Okay, so it's been such a joy catching up with you, sir. It is always a pleasure to chat, to see your name on new covers coming out. Real quick before you got to scatter off into the distance, like you're a gremlin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I am. No, it's there. You got me.
Where's mailing lists, website, obviously the Kickstarter and it's linked and stuff, but like, where do we follow you, keep track of you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky at Pepose. You can follow me at davidpepose.com and my website. David Pepose Comics on Facebook. And back the OZ, tinyurl.com/the OZ comic. We'll have, like I said, all 3 issues of our Rigo award-winning series from beginning to end in print and digital, all the various variant covers as well, so you can mix and match to your heart's delight. We'll have trade paperbacks for all of our series, including Space Ghost. I see the comment, do you need to watch any episodes of Space Ghost before reading a Space Ghost comic? No, you do not. You can get the first volume trade at my Kickstarter. And that is all you need to get you up to speed. It is a brand new reboot. Think J.J. Abrams' Star Trek from 2009. You don't need to have watched anything. I've already done that for you. So all you got to do is pick up the first trades. Same thing with Speed Racer, which is also available on the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Also, Andy B is my new buddy from Threads. I just built like a gaming PC and stuff. I've been getting back into gaming, and it's like, oh, I'm loving it, David. Loving it. I've spent so much money in the last 2 weeks. It is insane. But anyways, long story short, Andy B's got an amazing podcast, YouTube channel. He's always talking about video games. So what's cool is he's an older cat, right? Like I'm 40 now. I'll turn 41 in October, and it's just like, you game a little bit differently the older you get. You got to balance your time. It's harder to stay up all night and get up and go to work the next day. And so it's very refreshing, kind of like hearing an adult talk about video games and how to experience video games, or talking about like stuff that's on sale and saving a few bucks and not just necessarily buying the hot new brand thing. So yeah, Andy doesn't pay me. He's just a good dude. You should check him out. But David, dude, I don't know what I'm more excited for you for, like your family expansion level up, or like you're finally like this this big project in your life. Obviously I'm more excited for your family, but like,
listen, I'm excited for all of it. There's no wrong answers here, but I just want to thank you so much for having me, Blake. It is always a pleasure catching up with you. Always a pleasure talking comics, and especially the OZ, a project that is so near and dear to my Tin Man's heart.
I love you too. I know you didn't say that, but
you knew what I was saying. You knew what I was saying. I reverse Han Solo'd you. But thank you so much for having me, and thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah, thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Click those links in the description. Check out David's books. Get them on Kickstarter, because you get them directly from him, which is even like epic. And like he mentioned, he was going to sell diapers. You know what's cooler than a diaper? A comic you can read that doesn't have baby shit on it. Buy those on his Kickstarter and support this man's ongoing epic amazing comic book career and ongoing epic amazing family expansion coming 2026 fall. I don't know, sooner than that, like next month. Anyway, I can't tell time. I'm bad. Anyway, I so appreciate you taking the time. I know you got places to be. Everybody in chat, thank you so much. I love you. Appreciate the comments. We'll be back next week. Love more, hate less. Read all the comics.